All right. I want to address something that I've gotten some questions about in respect to the show. And this has been a question going on for a couple months, maybe a little longer. And I think it's time that we probably go ahead and address it. And without saying more than I should, because, of course, I don't want to overstep or speak out of school. So I'll just go ahead and address it. No. We don't actually know who the nominees are for the best local podcast in Columbia, but we will find out with you on Wednesday, May 29th. Also, happy birthday, Trent.
Hey, it's Zach from What the Pod Was That and the All About Nothing podcast. And America's birthday is coming up faster than we can track. Celebrate Independence Day in style with ZJZ Designs' latest t-shirt collection on TeePublic. Introducing 3 brand new 4th of July heart designs that perfectly capture the spirit of America. These shirts feature vibrant, patriotic colors and unique heart-shaped designs that stand out at any celebration. Whether you're heading to a fireworks show, a barbecue, or just enjoying the summer sun, our 4th of July heart collection has something for everyone. Show off your love for the red, white, and blue with ZJZ Design. Visit ZJZ Design's TeePublic shop today and get ready to shine this Independence Day. Links in the show notes or visit ZJZDesigns.com and check out all the great designs. New designs come up often. ZJZDesigns.com.
This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is brought to you by GOT Sound Studio. GOT Sound Studio offers a variety of experiences: music, voice, and instrumental recording and production, video, and still photography. GOT Sound Studio has all of your media needs met. Owned and operated by Dominique Stewart, the Neek the Geek, experienced artists as well as up-and-coming will find everything they need to create. Bring your media needs to one of the most talented producers and engineers in the business, Neek the Geek. You can find details by visiting gotsoundstudio.com or calling 803-243-2302. You can also find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com.
The All About Nothing podcast
may have content and language
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to another episode of the All About Nothing podcast. This is episode number 206. I am Barrett Gruber.
I am Zach King,
and I'm gonna let Preach introduce himself.
Hello.
Mufasa.
Look at you, man. Now back at me. Look at you, man. Now back at me. What's going on?
well,
what up, Preach?
I'm no stranger to this podcast. I go by the name of Preach Jacobs. I am a writer, an artist, a DJ, all of the creative stuff that pays you nothing but gets you currency in the community. I am a co-owner of Soul House Art Gallery in Vista, and I am now the host of Worthy Cause podcast on the Arena Network. I'm excited to be here, man.
Yeah,
what's up?
Very excited for us too.
Glad you're here. Glad you're back.
All right, please subscribe and share the show. That's how we get new listeners. Also, if you can, please consider supporting the show financially by visiting our website and clicking on the support link. And if you can't, please drop us a review, hit the 5 stars, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. All of those help drive us further up in the ratings on all these podcast platforms. So I do have a couple shout outs. I want to remind everybody the 2024 Soda City Comic Con is coming up. It's August 24th, 25th. It's going to be here before you know it. There's going to be a ton of people there, lots of them in cosplay. There's going to be celebrities as far as like character actors, voice actors, things like that. It's a huge event. Zach and I are definitely going to be there. There are more celebrities being announced throughout all of the Comic-Con's social media. So check out their webpage, sodacitycomiccon.com, for information. Also, thank you, John Kosis Jr., for your Fireflies update. We appreciate that. You get that exclusively here on the All About Nothing podcast. Also, I need to drop this because I was told to do this a few weeks ago, but I was talking to Sheriff Lott, and he told me that Lexington County and Richland County on June 1st, that's actually this week, this episode drops, June 1st, 5:30 p.m. at the Blowfish Baseball Stadium in Lexington on Ballpark Road. Sheriff's softball. So Lexington County and Richland County will be competing against each other in a softball tournament, or a softball game, I guess, that will be, I guess, the proceeds from ticket sales and concessions and things like that is going to go to a charity. I don't know what that charity is right now, but we'll disclose it later, I promise. Also, real quick, did get some listener feedback on Spotify. Matt Villardo friend of the pod and frequent.
Who's that?
This guy's sign right here.
What are the odds?
This guy. Oh,
he of course, candidate for South Carolina House Seat 26 at Fort Mill. You can check out his website to make donations or just see where he stands on platforms, that sort of thing. It's mattv4sc.com. But his comment was, quote, brilliant content. So I don't know what he was doing at the time, but I assume.
I do feel like that last episode was a banger.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was good.
That was a good one.
I do have something to share, Barrett, when you're done with the intro. It's one video.
Okay.
And it's about the bastards getting it.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
So the last thing I just want to say, the South Carolina Democratic Party convention weekend was last weekend, and Preach was there. We both went to the Blue Plate dinner. You were sitting at Michael B. Moore's table, right?
Yes.
I was sitting between the York County Democrats and the Greenwood County Democrats. So just I want to thank Matt Villardo and the York County Democrats. I also want to thank Bill Kimler, Dr. Jamil Brooks, and the Greenwood County Democrats. Also, shout out to Russell Ott. He's running for state senate and currently in the House. Also, Heather Bauer, South Carolina representative. She's down there in the one of the Columbia districts.
Has she done your pod yet?
No.
We get her on here.
We've exchanged some text messages, so we'll it'll happen soon. Also, Representative Jim Clyburn. He was nice to hook up with for a few minutes. Hoping that we'll get him on the podcast here soon.
That'd be fantastic.
Really, really cool. Got to shake hands with Senator Raphael Warnock, and I am just in awe of Reverend Warnock. He's just, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it, but he has such a command of how to communicate, and he is such a fantastic speaker and a great representative of the state of Georgia.
I'm about to say the man has to have something special to help turn Georgia blue.
Yeah,
and save us for the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny too. Like it's that when you start to see the intersection of Southern Black politics and the Baptist Church, there's no accident these people have a background in ministry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because listen, if you're in front of a congregation, a Black congregation in the South, that's politics.
Yeah.
So there's something magnetic that always happens with something like that. So it's funny. I was talking to Jonathan Igue, who wrote the King biography.
Yeah.
I was asking him, I was like, do you think that at some point in time, King would get involved in something like politics? Because it felt like, magnetizing the crowd, that's a part of the job. And absolutely Warnock is one of those people that when he's talking, I'm like, look, whatever you're selling, I'll cash app you right now. What's up?
Yeah.
We also got to meet Senator Cory Booker. We both got to take pictures with him. That was pretty cool.
He was taller than I expected. I didn't know he was that damn tall.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, Rosario's got to be she's got to be short on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't think she's super tall.
Did you ask him what's your fiance like?
I didn't feel like that would be responsible of me.
I don't know, because just let me know before.
Yeah, yeah, we may have to look that up before we.
There's a reason I wasn't there.
Yeah.
She's great. I mean, you're okay. She's just great.
If Rosario Dawson was there, I would have went up to Cory Booker. I was like, hey, Mr. Booker, good to see you. Here's my phone.
Yeah.
Take a picture of me and Rosario.
Yeah, please.
As my phone made a loud noise when I said that. So yeah.
One of the things I learned from that weekend is that Senator Booker, he is absolutely one of the greatest selfie takers I've ever seen in my entire life. Literally, when people are standing in line to take pictures with him, and he just grabs their phone and takes the picture himself, and then hands it back to him.
I have a theory behind that.
Yeah.
So Wendy Williams, before she stopped doing her show, she used to always say this rule when she was doing this, when she would go into the crowd to ask questions and people try to grab the microphone, she'll always snatch the microphone and be like, look, she was always taught, you don't touch the microphone. I control the microphone, right? And so there's a part of me that feels like Cory Booker at some point in time in his political career had a bad experience with somebody else taking the phone and taking a picture, right?
Yeah.
You either there's a smudge in it, either you got to take it from an angle where I don't look cute. If you're coming from the top looking at the bottom, I'm going to look the most slender. So he's like, I'm going to control every part of this process. And it was absolutely inspiring. I think I want to do that from now on.
And you know what? Now I want a Keegan-Michael Key sketch of him as Cory Booker getting pissed off at the terrible selfies people are taking with him. And he vows like an oath to never let anyone take a selfie of him.
I can see if someone tags him in a selfie on Instagram, he just untags him himself, creating selfies that he don't think is worthy. Right? Or I couldn't be mad at that. That's it. Like, so someone said this. There was a guy that used to work at TMZ, and they were asking him, do people get angry when they're on the front page of TMZ, whether the paparazzi caught them doing something crazy or doing something wrong, or something that could have gotten them in trouble? And he was like, the only thing people say, regardless of the topic that they're on TMZ, they're like, y'all could have used a better picture. That's all they give a fuck about.
Yeah.
Right.
I look dumb as hell.
Hold on a second, guys. Hold on a second. I gotta pause this for a second. Hold on. All right. Sorry. Where were we at? Oh, a skit.
Yeah.
We were talking about it.
Wouldn't Keegan-Michael Key be like the most hilarious Cory Booker?
He can do almost anybody. Like
did you see him at the BAFTAs? He was doing
I don't.
What the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I don't. Are you still printing something?
Are you faxing? Is it 1997 in this bitch?
Did my mic mess up?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be back.
Really loud now.
God damn.
It switched over to his
I remember saying there was a Michael Keegan skit that was just very, very terrible. It was yeah. You remember that Michael Keegan skit? Like, and I was like, you know what? That's a great use of your props. Just got like a soundboard with sound effects on it.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But yeah, Zach's back.
Is it fixed now?
Yeah, it's fixed.
Good.
that was preach.
I was like, not again.
And
you know what?
You're over there ripping the sides of the printer paper off. You're like, yep.
I'm gonna leave.
Dot matrix is going.
I'm gonna leave all of that in too. That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Yes.
Well, can I play my video of the fuckers being fucked?
Yeah, let's go ahead and Zach's gonna share something for us. So we want to pay explicit attention while Zach pulls this up, because I will just continue to talk until it comes. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
Today, the Department of Justice, joined by 29 states and the District of Columbia, sued Live Nation Entertainment and its wholly owned subsidiary Ticketmaster for violating the Sherman Antitrust Act. In recent years, Live Nation Ticketmaster's exorbitant fees and technological failures have been criticized by fans and artists alike. But we are not here today because Live Nation Ticketmaster's conduct is inconvenient or frustrating. We are here because, as we allege, that conduct is anti-competitive and illegal. Our complaint makes clear what happens when a monopoly dedicates its resources to entrenching its monopoly power and insulating itself from competition rather than investing in better products and services. We allege that Live Nation has illegally monopolized markets across the live concert industry in the United States for far too long. It is time to break it up. Earlier today, the Department of Justice.
Get him, Merrick. Get him.
I'm curious as to how that's all going to play out, because would Live Nation potentially then be split into? Would Ticketmaster then potentially become its own company, or Live Nation would just handle very specific events, and Ticketmaster would handle like sports events? I just don't know how that works.
Those fees, and that it is the only place you can go.
Oh yeah,
is insane. They've locked you into like $20 ticket turns into literally $60.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The fees a lot of times become more than the tickets, and that's the way that you trick people into it. You're thinking the ticket's a certain price, and you're paying much more. I'm interested in seeing what's happening. A lot of people in the industry are saying that the bigger issue is, in order for you to go to a certain venue, they're forcing people to use whether a Live Nation, Ticketmaster, or whatever the case may be. And that's where some of that kind of comes in, right? Where it's just like, you know, theoretically, I'm like, I don't understand why people can't be like, yo, man, I'm going to Eventbrite this bitch. I know it's 50,000 people, but y'all click the link, right?
Yeah.
But I'm joking in kind, but I think there's something to that theory where I feel like something's going to happen. And I would say similarly, I'll bring this up, that there is a new thing. I think the Supreme Court voted against, I don't know if it was that or they just settled, but NCAA is paying $2 billion with what's going on with how they've handled things in the past with NIL, and they're doing kind of like this back pay. So my thing is, if NCAA is like saying, all right, we're going to pay $2 billion to not take this any further, who's to say what was going to happen kind of in the public domain? Like, what we're going to say about that publicly? And I feel like, you know, when you're looking at something like college sports, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're a child that wants to get into a league or want to have aspirations of being professional, they're forcing you to go through here. Same thing with like a Ticketmaster thing. So I'm interested in seeing how they handle it. Was the last time we saw a monopoly broken up like that, was it Microsoft? But I've also heard that like Apple is worth $1 trillion. Like, how's that being treated? How's Amazon being treated? You know, what are they doing for stuff like that?
I think with Apple and Microsoft, they look at it as though well, there's Microsoft and there's Apple, and then, you know, there's Linux and all these other, you know, IBM softwares and stuff like that. I think that's how they justify allowing for Apple to be worth $1 trillion and Microsoft to be worth like, you know, 1.2 trillion or however much.
Well, and then Windows coming on your PC is the option of the manufacturer.
Yeah.
That they're in some kind of agreement that they're paying for you to use Windows. You don't have to.
Yep.
With Apple, I think you're going to use their OS no matter what. I'm not sure because it's all proprietary for them. I don't think you can swap it out. Somebody can, I'm sure.
I can do a virtual machine on mine and create a Windows machine off of it. So it's not like
that's not like much work.
Yeah, but
you're doing it with dog shit hardware.
Well, all right. So in the scheme of all of this, where does it lie on your scale when U2's album was forced on your Apple phone? Do y'all remember that shit?
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing is, I if it was there, fine, but not being able to delete it was the biggest problem.
I think it's still in my downloads, to be completely honest with you. And Vertigo,
you too, fine, great, thanks for the free album, but I gotta get it out of here. It's 2 gigs on a 4 gig phone.
I liked Vertigo fine. You know, it was a decent song. It was all right.
So it might be shocking, not a huge U2 fan.
No, I'm not shocked by that. That you would have had to grow up in the early '80s and then be a music aficionado.
I literally had a year and a half in the '80s. That is it.
I feel like I experienced 11 years in the 80s, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're old.
So I wanted to bring this up. Actually, before we get into everything, I do want to ask Preach about and talk about The Arena, Worthy Cause podcast with Preach Jones. This is your
Preach
YouTube
Jones,
channel.
Preach Jones.
Preach Jones.
Preach Jones.
Leroy Brown. Preach Jones.
Preach.
All right, I'm gonna cut you some slack. It's Tyler Jones and Preach Jacobs, but I think if we collaborated, all right. So Tyler, when we do a podcast, it'll be the Preach Jones podcast. So
no one sees the slash in the middle. Yeah, it's just the Preach Jones.
So Tyler Jones is the publisher of The Arena, and The Arena, you can check out The Arena, thearenasc.com. Lots of articles that are being written. I saw you've had 2 articles out there right now.
I have a few. So my rotation is a lot more than I thought it was going to be, because I just have a lot of stuff to write about. And they're like, hey, yeah, let's run it. So I have like an idea, and I'm like, yeah, shit, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Which is also really, really great. I think to have more people in South Carolina amplifying South Carolina voices, whether it's arts, culture, business, or politics, I think is necessary, right? So I think the general idea initially when something like this, where a new media company comes in, you're going to have some hesitation from the established publications. You're going to have like the Free Times or the state newspaper, which I've also written for and worked for as a freelancer. There's going to be a hesitation, like, we don't know what this is. But I think that when it comes to something like when you look at investigative reporting or things like that, I think the more people you have on the ground helps get it out there.
Yeah,
right. And I think that's really, really important. And with the podcast, with the Worthy Cause podcast, it was just like an amazing synergy where I was a couple of years with SCE TV, kind of in the fundraising sector, dealing with, you know, when you would watch, and we talked about this on the first time you guys talked to me on the pod, it was like, if you're watching one of these interstitials, it's like, donate $10 to become a sustaining star. Donate now. You know what I mean? So it was great in a certain regard to be able to have that experience of seeing how public media works and being involved in the community. And in some regard, that is politics, right? Yeah. And so when I stepped away from that and the arena kind of came in, they're like, hey, you want to pay you to do what you're doing. You know, you're great with being in the community. We want to pay you for your relationships in South Carolina. And one of the things when I'm talking to like people that are in the political sphere, when we're talking in the pod, I'm like, hey, man, I don't want this to be 60 Minutes and Ed Bradley. What I want to do more than anything else, when there's young people that I want to get engaged in the political process or the civic process, I want to humanize you. Yeah. I want to hear these stories about what made you want to get involved, what made you want to run. Because a lot of times there's not a lot of politicians that are groomed from day one to do it. You know, when I was talking to Jonathan Igue, we were having this conversation about MLK, and he was saying that in 1955, when Rosa Parks was arrested, the movement reached out to Martin Luther King, who was this young, magnetizing minister. And they're like, hey, do you want to speak up about what happened to Rosa? And he initially was like, no, I'm good. Right. And we forget that he was this young man with a new wife and starting his family. He didn't want to be thrusted into the political sphere. And he realized over time, this is something that I feel like I need to do. Yeah. And I think that that's important to hear those stories, to hear people saying, look, I had aspirations of doing something else career-wise, but I felt like I was compelled to get involved in the political process. And I think that's an important story to tell. And it humanizes people. And so what I want to be able to do with the podcast is find the connective tissue, whether it's creative people, whether it's artists, whether it's business, whether it's politics, that all those things are together. And I tell people all the time, if you're an artist doing artwork, encouraging or asking people to buy your shit, you are a politician. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that it works better when we realize that all of those things are interconnected and working together. And I think that what the arena is doing right now, I'm just really excited about it. And I know I'm excited about it because as soon as we launched, it made it so much easier to get people to come on the pod and to work with us, because I didn't have to ask them anymore. They were hitting me up. And that's usually a great sign, is that people see what the vision is, even if we're still in the infant stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you have, from the very get-go, and I know that you've already have a talent with speaking with people and things like that, but the Worthy Cause podcast with Priest Jones it's engaged. I'm gonna say the whole damn thing every single time.
Priest Jones.
That is,
Priest Jones, keep my name out your mouth.
Priest Jones. Ooh, Priest Jones.
You know what I did? I literally wrote Priest Jones in my notes. So the Worthy Cause podcast with Priest Jacobs. I'm
changing my name, brother.
Our other co-host for What the Pod Was That called me Josh for a good fucking 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I was like, we've done 30 episodes. What is this? What?
So don't feel bad. All right. So story time with Priest Jones. So back when we were doing, when Columbia was doing the Three Rivers Music Festival, one year, when the last year of Three Rivers, they had Aretha Franklin came in. Yeah. And I was a photographer for a few of the Three Rivers festivals. I took like these really great pictures of Outkast that got some national attention. I'm really excited about. So the last year, I took these pictures of Aretha, and I was one of the few photographers that was out there. So when Aretha passed away, the news stations reached out to me because they were trying to find people that had pictures from that event and to talk about the historical significance of Aretha Franklin with Black music and culture and how to it, like, you know, tie in to people in South Carolina. And so I gave them a picture to use for WLTX. And when they had the picture on the news to give me credit, that shit said, photo credit, Preach Washington.
What was his last name? I don't know. Give him the black one. Washington, yeah. Let's do that one.
so this is listen, I laugh every time. It's fantastic. I don't take it.
You're on like national news and you're like, son of a bitch.
Look, man. The only time I care when you spell the name right is when you write in the check.
Oh, totally agree.
It's jokes. Totally it's agree. Funny. I'll take it.
Yeah.
When I realized Tyler wasn't going to be available, I probably should have just taken out all reference of him, except for being the publisher and the guy that, you know, that runs the arena. Oh, sorry.
Keep that shit in there too. Like, let's keep that shit in there.
Look, I know. I want you to edit it, and it's going to be a robot every time you said Jones. It's Jacobs.
Jacob. Preach Jacobs.
Yeah, exactly. Like an answering machine. Jacobs.
I can actually cut that out and use it. Just so you're.
The irony of him using his name.
We have
to
the
fix
technology.
His name.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I think it's really cool, and you know, we here at All About Nothing, we will gladly support you guys as much as we can and as much as you'll let us. Because
I wanted to do more. Like we were talking about that earlier. We're gonna figure all that out, and I'm gonna get you some of this footage. Now that I know that you're using the same platform to film this, it makes it easier to get you this footage. So we'll work it out.
You a Riverside guy too?
I'm a Riverside guy till I die.
Shout out to Riverside, and actually, and really for us at least, the person that got us onto Riverside was me, and she uses it to record segments of her podcast. So, you know, very cool. Ami, of course, welcome to Wonderland. You can check that out.
Yes,
WTWLpod.com. So
/ Jones,
Ami Jones. I will get past it, and then, you know.
No, we can keep up. I'm sorry.
So something straight out of South Carolina politics. Nikki Haley, of course, dropped out of the race back in March, and when she dropped out, one of the things that she did was she quoted Margaret Thatcher and said, and when she quoted her, and I'm going to paraphrase, but basically, Margaret Thatcher said, you know, don't just fall in line with the crowd. And that was why she said that she was not going to endorse Donald Trump for president. And that, but she encouraged Donald Trump to reach out to her supporters to get their vote. And this week, just yesterday, she went on some television program somewhere and basically said she will be voting for Donald Trump. And everyone's breaking this down as though she flip-flopped. She you know, she said she wasn't going to endorse him. And I want to point this out. There are plenty of candidates that I will probably vote for that I'm not endorsing. I'm not giving Nikki Haley a pass, but I'm just acknowledging that there's different value to those two words, endorsing and voting for. That, you know, an endorsement sort of infers that you're going to pull all of your supporters with you. And she's not encouraged them to join him. She's only told him to get them to join him. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
I'm sorry. I thought the DoorDasher was dropping my food off at my neighbor's house, and so I was having to text. I'm like, "Do not steal my food, you fuck!" Like,
it's like we have a delivery for Zac Jones. Anyways,
son of a bitch.
I mean, in all seriousness, I don't think it's news because I don't think it's anything that's groundbreaking with any of this stuff, right? Like. I was having a conversation about this earlier, and when we talk about when Trump first ran, he was in South Carolina a lot.
Yeah.
And I knew photographers that worked for the AP that were based out of South Carolina. When they were taking pictures, when Trump would have his rallies in South Carolina, nobody showed the fuck up.
Yeah.
Nobody came out there. These places were half empty, if not more empty. And what ended up happening, Trump operated as if he knew he wasn't going to win. He acted as if I'm running to get more exposure so I can renegotiate some contracts when I'm trying to go to NBC. So he was operating as somebody that was saying whatever he wanted because he was not thinking that he was going to get the White House. I bring that up to say that during that time, two things happened. Number one, when he's saying all this ridiculous, crazy stuff, the press, left and right, was covering him because it was so absurd.
Right.
Right. But where I think that Democrats or the Democrat or liberal media was responsible in some kind of way is what happens is people in the rural South or people that are not very engaged, they don't care that you're writing about Trump because you're making fun of some absurd shit that he's saying. What they're saying is the fact that I see his name in the paper more means that he must be more popular.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, Trump was getting quote unquote earned press by saying really absurd shit. Where the reality was we should have just ignored him. We should have just ignored him like somebody yelling at the moon as if it was going to change, right? But there was something that happened in that regard where I think there was an over coverage that kind of put him into the situation where it appeared that he was more successful or popular than what it was. The second thing that happened during that time, and this is what really, really frustrates me with South Carolina politicians, especially the Republicans, was that you saw Lindsey Graham, Nikki Haley, and Tim Scott all publicly
denounce.
Vehemently, right?
Until they got punked.
Yeah.
Well, my thing is this, and this is why it's frustrating, is that when there's a turnaround of these people supporting him publicly, you start to realize, dog, I know you don't believe this shit.
Yeah.
Like the type of stuff that Trump was saying about Lindsey Graham was insane.
Yeah.
Like Tim Scott was like, he'll be terrible for the party. And then he's doing, oh, we love you. That is the thing that you begin to realize about the Republican Party is that it is party over people.
Yeah.
Right. And I always say this in reference to the civil rights movement. Right. I have my personal opinions when I looked at certain stuff with civil rights movement when it comes to black leaders. Right. And reading the King book was really, really important to me to kind of see things in a different light. But one of the things that I always said was, I had an approach personally from a Garveyistic approach where civil rights movement, there was a huge component of, hey, we want to be seen as equal to white America. That's going to be the way that we're going to fight the Jim Crow South. So there was these ideals of, I want to go to this diner. I want to ask for this food up front. You're going to tell me to get the fuck out. No, serve me. And then all this stuff, commences. The Garveyist perspective is, all right, if they don't want me in here, I'm going to go to people in my community and make this shit better. Mm-hmm. Right. And even in looking at that, regardless if I disagree with some of the perspectives of the civil rights movement, my argument was always this. I don't have to believe in what you believe in, but I got to believe that you believe in what you believe in. Right. So if a politician is saying something to me, regardless of how absurd it might be, if I believe you believe it, then I can buy into a certain degree. What drives me crazy is you're hearing a lot of these Republicans going to their base and galvanizing people in the South to embrace these policies and somebody that's not healthy for them, knowing they don't agree with them, they think that Trump is this absurd person. So I think that from a national perspective, it is absolutely terrifying. But I also feel like, hopefully, this is why you see a huge influx of black and brown and BIPOC people that are deciding to run in South Carolina. And I think that's really, really interesting. And I think that the black population in South Carolina is one of the reasons why we become the primary place for the Dems this year.
Yeah.
And the fact that Trump has sunken low enough to even just go sell Bibles. There was a dude telling a story about, like, his dad was like a door-to-door salesman who was just like screwing up all his sales. The bottom rung you can get to is selling Bibles.
Yeah.
So if you were selling Bibles, you were in trouble.
Well, hold
But
on.
it's pandering. And talk about somebody saying things but not believing them. Donald Trump is the king of doing that shit.
Yeah.
Well, look, Giuliani is selling coffee now. There's a Giuliani coffee. Have you seen this?
It runs down your mug like his hair dye down his face.
Do any of us actually believe that Rudy Giuliani drinks coffee? I don't see coffee being something that he drinks. I see him,
dude. He's a geriatric dude. He drinks coffee.
I don't think so. And the only reason I say that is because he is 85% of the time you see Giuliani, he's drunk.
Yeah, so it's Irish coffee, right?
Piss drunk.
So he's putting bourbon in his Sanka?
Yeah.
I would.
This coffee is terrible, but the bourbon makes it right.
I don't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine myself saying, "Oh, I'm gonna drink Rudy Giuliani's coffee." I'm gonna give it.
Never in a million years. Coheed and Cambria has coffee, and I'm like, nah. I'm a huge fan. Not drinking coffee from it.
Yeah, I think that the Republican Party is they suffer from the benefit of the fact that people that grew up, white people that grew up in South Carolina and attached themselves to the Republican Party between 1955 and now, that they've grown up as Republicans. They believe that because they go to church every week that the Republican Party represents Christianity, and which it dumbfounds me how you can associate Christian. Donald Trump gets up there and talks about how he goes to church. You literally get footage every now and then of, you used to get Barack Obama walking out of church every Sunday. Like, it was an event. He'd go to St. Patrick's, the family would go, and the news would have him leaving.
Fox News would have roasted him if he didn't show up for church.
Well,
they killed him for a tan suit, my boy.
Yeah.
Like, not going to church, been done.
But like, Biden has walked out of church, and they toss these anyway. It's that to me is ridiculous. How you can?
I'm right there with you.
But the Republican Party, I think over the course of the last 30 years that I've been able to acknowledge politics in my life, I think that the Republican Party has been notorious for having the pedophiles, the sexual assaulters,
that covers both of Matt Gaetz.
Yeah,
both of those cover Matt Gaetz. Yeah,
I mean, you had the guy out of, I can't remember which state it was, but the one that was that it was a hookup spot at some bookstore or airport or something like that, where you just tapped your foot underneath the stall, and that was initiating some homosexual stuff, and like, but the Republicans have all of these defunct it's hard to even like put into words.
You know what I think it is? I think this is a recent story that makes me think about this, and I think that I'm gonna lean into the topic of like hip hop, where there's something that I think has happened with us as American culture, where if you talk about the Diddy situation and Cassie, who was a victim of domestic violence, and when Cassie filed her lawsuit, a civil suit, and Puffy settled like a week or so later, or maybe a day later, it was really, really quick. In her lawsuit, she had many instances where she detailed what was happening, right? But for some reason, certain people in the public had to see video of her being horrifically assaulted before we believed it. Right. And then when you look back at her claims, everything she said was in the video.
Yep.
And I think politically, that's one of the things that ends up happening as well. I think that the public will read about, the 91 charges on a Trump. The public can read about, the Stormy Daniels situation. The public can read about, it's been open knowledge about how Trump has been as a business owner, right? From the art of the deal, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen this for a long time. So it's not like the public didn't know that any of these things existed. Again, I think what we're combating are two different things. Like when I was talking to Hamilton Grant for the podcast recently, I was talking to him about when Jamie Harrison was going after the Lindsey Graham seat for the Senate. And I said, you know, Lindsey Graham has the luxury of running for a Senate seat. Jamie Harrison is running against history.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I think that there's different loaded situations that ends up happening with people in certain political spheres. And I think that when Trump is running, you're not running against a politician as much as you're running against someone who 40 or 50 or 40 or so years of him being a public figure, whether it's him getting this reputation of being this amazing playboy in New York City, regardless if he's just a shitty businessman, it's seen as, oh, well, he's this cutthroat, great business guy, whatever. So when he walks into a political sphere, when you have rural, poor people, they're like, oh, this is what success looks like. Someone that has a golden toilet, right? You know, someone that walks around talking about, you know, puts their name on buildings and stuff like that. So I think it's not politics operating under policy and people that are running for a position. You're combating against celebrity and fame. And that's something that's more difficult than just one candidate against another. And I don't know how you combat that.
Yeah. I don't want.
I think they're still working it. They're trying to figure that out.
And I don't want this to sound insulting to anyone that is a Donald Trump supporter that potentially is listening to this. Because if you're yelling at your audio player or whatever right now, your phone,
Preach Jones. Okay.
Motherfucker. God,
that's at Preach Jones on Twitter X. Now I wonder what the threshold is as far as like level of being able to be observant or recognizing the difference between truth and lies, because there's got to be some cutoff point where, like, you know, we fall into Donald Trump's full of shit all the time. Mm-hmm. He was in the Bronx. He was in South Bronx yesterday doing a rally, and the first thing I start seeing is posts on TikTok and Twitter saying that there were 100,000 people there. I'm like, I've been to the South Bronx. You couldn't fit 100,000 people just on the streets.
That was St. Louis, right? They were showing pictures of St. Louis where Barack Obama was speaking in 2008.
It's like, pan out, just pan out on that picture. You see Obama standing there.
He was covering the Obama part, so I think he knew. He happened to just be on that side of the video covering where Obama was standing.
But I watch some of these videos and these Trump supporter, and I watch the Trump supporter ones because I want to at least have some sort of idea as what it is that they're thinking, what it is, what are they giving up in order to support Donald Trump?
Here's what I'll tell you. You don't choose to believe something. You believe it because on some level you were convinced this is the truth. That is what believing something is. There's people who are shaky. How you question belief is being honest and questioning what you believe. Against, just like you're saying, I'm a Democrat, but I'm looking at the Donald Trump supporter videos, trying to figure out where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Things that I think that most people are scared to do because it is scary is to question your worldview. I've said this before. Even for them to question going against what they've been. For one, I grew up in the South and was told I'm a Republican for most of my life. They were told the same thing. And to question that is more scary than to just blindly believe something.
So is it just respect of the fact that some people just don't think for themselves? They don't.
Yes. So essentially it's when someone tells you something contradictory, unless you're open to accepting that and truly investigating it, it's an attack instead of an opinion.
It's
you know what I mean?
Pride.
Exactly.
Well, I saw this definition of when people talk about heritage, and someone said that it's peer pressure from dead people, right? And I think
that's fair.
What I think ends up happening when, especially the South and politics, have so many things that are muddied in there that makes it more interesting and difficult for someone that I think is people of color, because politics and civil rights always go hand in hand, right? Where it's not like a random policy that somebody, you know, in Connecticut can be like, oh, I just don't believe it or agree with this policy. What's happened to a lot of Black people and minorities in America is that there were policies that infringe on you from living.
Yeah.
Right. There were policies that I don't want your ass here. Policies that means that you're not worthy or not even a full person. So there's a huge gap of fighting from, hey, there's equality here, but before I get to equality, you don't even acknowledge me as a real person yet.
Yeah.
And that was becoming the big thing what happens to civil rights. So what I think is happening now, I don't think it's a conversation that people are arguing with truth. I think when you're seeing stuff like book bans and stuff that's happening in certain South Carolina counties, like Beaufort, South Carolina was on a 60 Minutes report about these schools and the Mothers of Liberty trying to come in and ban some of these books. When you're looking at people trying to ban books, it's not about trying to embrace truth, because truth is in the books.
Right.
The reality is comfort. They're combating against comfort.
Exactly.
Because
it combats their worldview. It's opposing their worldview.
Exactly. And so then that becomes a different situation, right? Because what ends up happening when you're fighting against books or something that shows history, I always tell people this, especially as a Black man, studying history is never a pleasant proposition, right? It's never something that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Right. Like even in modern 20th century shit, I always joke about a show like Mad Men, which I love Mad Men, but I know that a show
awful time.
Well, for me especially, the 1960s, the only Black people are pushing buttons on the elevator or they're being a chauffeur.
Right.
So I have to have a sense of disengagement before I'm walking into it, understanding that I'm going to watch 8 seasons of this show and not see myself represented in a certain way. And that's something that I'm fine with. I could still embrace it and think it's a dope and amazing show. But when I look at things in history, it's never a pleasant thing. And to me, I don't think that's history's point. The point of investigating history is to keep you from doing the dumb shit again.
Yeah,
exactly. The lessons that are embedded in it.
Exactly. It's to give perspective. So when we're looking at, when I first think of Roe v. Wade being reversed in the Supreme Court, and they're trying to say, oh, let the states decide, there's something very, very crucial, because the states decided on things like segregation and decided on things of, you know, the whole separate but equal bullshit and things like that.
Yeah.
So when you're starting to look at those type of cases being reversed, there's going to be an attack later on with civil rights. And for somebody like me, whether it's Black, brown, or even women, when you're seeing those rights being reversed, that becomes terrifying. There was something that came out a few weeks ago where Clarence Thomas was basically saying, hey, I think the Supreme Court's a little too harsh with Brown versus the Board of Education.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Clarence Brown is a piece of shit, too.
See, he messed up Clarence's name. Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas. Sorry, whatever.
It happens with us white people.
There's a Clarence Brown out there that ain't shit either. Fuck you, Clarence. Clarence Jones. Clarence Jones that ain't shit.
Clarence Thomas and his RV and his handsy self.
Which one took that $1 million, man?
I do too. I do too. Not and you know what? Not only because I want Clarence Thomas out of the Supreme Court, but also because I like John Oliver, but I want John Oliver to have that as content for the show. You know, that he could literally start the show by writing that check where he's sending him. Yeah. What was it? How much money was he going to send him? Like a yearly?
I think $1 million a year in the RV.
Yeah.
If he steps down from the Supreme Court.
And it was legit. Like he
the dopest RV he's ever seen.
He published.
Like,
he published the contract on I think on Twitter, and literally said, all you have to do is retire and sign right here, and that's it. You get this $500,000 RV and $1 million a year out of my paycheck. Yeah. Like,
and you know, Clarence Thomas was like, looked at his wife for a second, or whoever he's keeping hostage, and like,
no, his
you
wife
think he's
is,
for real.
His
for
wife
real?
is his wife is nuts. I believe.
Yeah, she stayed with him after all that shit he did. Anita Hill.
Oh well, Anita Hill was the one that he ruined. I mean,
yeah.
Which again, back to the Cassie situation. let's believe women when they're saying these things are happening, right? And as a black man, there's nothing worse to me. And I think what ends up happening, a weird comforting thing that happened during the Black Lives Matter movement during the pandemic was the way that Black America talked about the relationship between law enforcement and the community. It was one of those weird things that happened during the pandemic where you started to see law enforcement, they were fucking everybody up. Yeah. Right. They started knocking down old white men, which I'm like, they should be the most protected people here. Right. And there was a thing where America started saying to Black America, like, oh shit, y'all weren't exaggerating when y'all was saying this type of stuff. Right. And so, yeah. And I don't know if it was comforting as much as it was like, all right, well, thank you for telling me that what I feel isn't crazy. But I think that happens with women, especially women of color in this country, when it's like, yo, we've been telling you these people ain't been shit. We've been telling you about Clarence Thomas. We've been telling you about these things. And you never listen. Yeah. And do we always need hotel footage to prove what we're saying, right?
You gotta believe the victim, man. And it's 9 times out of 10, it doesn't come out of anywhere. You got some crazy people out there. Well, but
yeah, I was gonna say
you believe the victim and find evidence. I don't think it needs to go as far as like, let's watch what happened.
Yeah, believe, trust the victim, and then investigate. You know, that doesn't mean throw somebody in jail that's been accused, but at least go through the process of investigating. That's the biggest point. There are so many things like in history. It's just amazing to me how, and we get the 20,000 foot view of it. But like just the things that we look back on and recognize that this was absurd. We recognize it.
Y'all went to, Preach, I can't remember if were you raised in South Carolina? Like,
born and bred.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So I can say what the fuck I want about this state because I've been here long enough.
When you're learning history, going through middle school and up and stuff, the civil rights leaders you learn about: Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman,
Rosa Parks.
Those are like that's the four. That's where it stops for me. I was like, man, the four people did a whole lot of shit until you grow up and realize
they didn't tell you about George Washington Carver.
All right.
They lied about it.
I got 2 things to say. I have a George Washington Carver story that's going to fuck you up, and I also have a funny Black History story. So I've always been this person I am, where I was always interested in Black history. I studied it. I wrote about it. I was fascinated by it. I read all these books. I read like the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was like 8 years old. Like just all into this stuff. And so when I was in elementary school, I think I'm like in the 3rd or 4th grade, they required all the students to get a part of like these clubs, these after school clubs. And you get to choose these clubs to be a part of, whether it's chess club, glee club, or whatever. They had a Black History Club that was really, really fantastic. And I was like, oh shit, the Black teacher that everybody loves, she's teaching it. I want to be a part of this Black History Club. So we all ended up in this Black History Club, and it was all Black students except this one white kid. And the teacher, Miss Hamilton, she comes in and she says, does anybody want to talk about why they chose the Black History Club? Right. And all the Black kids laugh because we were kind of like, it's kind of obvious. We Black, we want Black history, whatever.
That's the white guy.
Yeah. Right. So Kerr, there's a kid named Kerr. He was in the 2nd or 3rd grade. He raised his hand and she's like, why are you in the Black History Club? And he says in the sweetest voice, he says, I'm in the Black History Club because I want to learn more about you people. Right?
Hey, man.
No, listen.
Hey, man.
Listen, here's the funny shit. He was so sincere.
Yeah, he was. I know he was. He had to be
mad at it, right?
No, yeah.
But listen, when we came into that club next week, that motherfucker wasn't in there ever again.
Oh. Was it? Oh.
I can imagine he told his redneck parents, they said, you went to what?
What? I had to pick you up after school for what?
Yo,
I'll teach you. It's Rosa Parks, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King. That's it. That's all you need to know.
All right, so my George Washington Carver story. It's kind of heartbreaking in a way, but
well, that's what we do on this show. We end the show with the most depressing thing possible.
Well, there was stories that were saying that I don't think he ever had any kids or anything like that. And there was these questions about, did George Washington Carver having kids, this and that. And there was these stories that I read that he was mutilated as a young boy
Oh wow!
As some racial response or something, or punishment that was a racial punishment, and as a result of that, he never had puberty, and so he had an extremely high pitched voice, and so he was alive old enough to be recorded.
Yeah,
and I found a recording, like you can find it on YouTube, of him being interviewed, and when you hear his voice, it gives credence to all those stories. Yeah, it gives credence to all those stories, and it's kind of like, holy shit. So there's certain reminders. It's sort of the same thing when we're talking about having actual footage and things like that. It's not an accident that enslaved people weren't allowed to read or write, because the people doing the enslaving were like, we don't want you at some point to tell people how terrible this shit is right now. So that was a part of that I thought was I don't know. It just put a lot of stuff in perspective for me.
And people who back in the day owned slaves, they had a book with them that said it was okay and how you're supposed to treat slaves.
Yeah.
And then when time passes on, that part gets ignored. The thing about it is, when we're talking about enslaved people, or we're talking about historical things in the past, like, there's a lot of things that happen policy wise that, 40 years ago, motherfuckers were smoking cigarettes on airplanes.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of times we don't have to go so far back to see how things are, but it's a ton of groupthink, and there's a lot of things where it's like one of the things about the business of slavery was that we don't want to hear about it being an immoral issue when we're making so much money off of it.
Yeah.
if
reason your way into it. Mm-hmm.
If something's immoral that's happening and we're not profiting off of it, it's easier to pump your fist and say, let's get rid of that shit, right? Like, if we were saying, hey, it's immoral to, I don't know, drink red Kool-Aid or something like that. I'm like, you know what? Fuck red Kool-Aid. I don't drink it enough to give a fuck about it. Red Kool-Aid is hurting people. They got to kill people to make it. Fuck it. Let's ban red Kool-Aid. Now, if there's something that I make money from and you're wanting to ban it, then it's a whole different conversation. Yeah. It's different ways of justification that ends up happening,
Yeah, wait a minute. I got this book right here, and it says...
Yeah. And a lot of times the book was you ain't going to have to go any further than the Bible. But, that's a whole other conversation we're going to have.
Yeah.
Another time.
So,
we'll go down that road.
The last thing...
Well, my name is Preach Jones, so I had to talk about the Bible at some point.
I am probably never going to live that down, to be completely ever.
Pastor Preach Jones.
So the last,
or if you're Greg Locke now, I don't know if you saw that. Greg Locke is now an Apostle Locke.
He's
not Pastor Locke. Yeah, they've leveled up in his version of Christianity, where he is now Apostle Locke, because Jesus loves that church so much. Yeah.
Somebody told me that they saw a bumper sticker recently that said Jesus is coming back. And he's angry as shit. He's
pissed.
And he's pissed as shit. And like, I feel, and I don't want this to come across like I don't understand maybe what they're going through to buy a bumper sticker like that and then feel like, destroying their vehicle by putting it on there. Or that being the first thing that people recognize about you. Oh, you're the dude with the bumper sticker that says Jesus is coming back and he's pissed.
It's a Mitsubishi Mirage. We can ignore them. Yeah.
But people put these, like the guy with the truck that put the wrap on the back of his truck that showed Biden like tied up and
hogtied.
And whatever. You're spending money on something that 20 years from now, hopefully, is going to be completely irrelevant. Donald Trump will be long dead. Joe Biden will be long dead, but you've put this thing on your car.
Can I? You know what I think is funny? I was watching Hot Shots, the first one today while I was at work, and the dude who's climbing in the plane. Yeah. So the one dude who's about to die is climbing in the plane, and she's like, "Well, you want to sign your life papers? It just got approved. You just got to sign it." And he's like, "Oh, wait." But how modern, like, problems even back then are still problems today. And he's like, "By the way, figured out the whole JFK thing. I'm going to let you know when I get back. Also, that global warming problem we've all been having, I figured it out. We got it fixed. And he just climbs in the plane and essentially dies. I was like, dude, back in 1991, global warming was still a big deal. Al Gore's out there preaching, going for it. It's just shit. Some shit never changes, I guess. I don't know.
So
I saw that today, thought it was pretty.
I will just say this, and I try to remember to say it every week, but everyone listening, check your voter registration. If you are in one of these red states or Georgia, if you're in one of these typically red states, the party in control, the Republican Party, is doing everything that they can potentially do to try and limit the number of people that are going to turn out to vote in November. Whether it's laws saying that you can't give someone water that's been standing in line for 3 hours to vote, or or limiting like the amount of available early voting time, or not having mail-in balloting. Like we don't have mail-in balloting in South Carolina. We have absentee balloting, but we don't have mail-in balloting. And absentee balloting requires a semi-approval to be able to vote absentee. So we have to acknowledge in all of the states where Republicans are trying to pull some of this trickery to try and prevent people from voting, because ultimately, if everyone in this country turned out and voted, we would see a blue wave, because for the most part, the country's fairly moderate. And I know the polls are not showing it, because I believe that the reason the polls aren't showing it is because MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, all of these corporate news media, they make more money when Donald Trump's leading. That is more reportable, and people will continue to be there watching, and mostly just the cartoons, the commercials. They're those.
I thought you were about to say Kardashians.
The corporate media. The only thing that they're not there to spread information. They're there to sell commercials, and the only thing they want is for you to stick around long enough to watch the commercials.
I haven't thought about that, but also I want to say a recent quiet story that's been running through nationally that involves South Carolina. The Supreme Court rules the South Carolina congressional map was not racially gerrymandered. And that's something that's going to be continued on, where you're going to have certain districts that have been historically against Black and brown communities, that Supreme Court is like, nah, we don't see any problem with this.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Something that I always thought was really, really interesting, when people are talking to me about the press, and I've been writing for publications here. I'm not saying that I'm a part of Spotlight for the Boston Globe or nothing like that, but being a columnist for a while, and I was doing the crime blotter for about 15 years.
Yeah.
I've written for all the largest publications in South Carolina. I have some experience for the past 15, 16 years. One of the things that I realized was this: when it comes to news, and what's changed, is that, back in the day with Walter Cronkite and the news segments on NBC or all these other, the major stations, they operated at a loss leader. They operated as a public service. It's that it didn't matter if they were selling ads. They weren't supposed to sell ads.
Right.
Somehow, some way, these networks are basically like, hey, the news is something that's important. It's a public service. It's not supposed to be profitable. So it gave the news leg of CBS to be able to be like, yo, we can report what we need to report without CBS corporate or CBS coming in here talking about, stockholders or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
So what ended up happening, and this is the left and the right, is that as soon as you started to have 24-hour news media, now all of a sudden, go fuck yourself, Preach Jones. But what ended up happening is that you start to see 24-hour news media where all of a sudden, if I have to fill this shit on here for 24 hours, I have to pay for this. And so all of a sudden you start to see less reporting and
stuff.
More sandbags, right? People have their opinions, whether it's left or right, because it's NBC News, Fox News, and CNN. You have people and pundits giving their opinions, and it's not about the news as much as it is
editorializing the whole thing,
fulfilling this content, right? Mm-hmm. And so And so I'm not saying those things are bad. Like I watch a lot of these shows. I appreciate a lot of these shows. It's weird that like somebody like Jon Stewart has been the person that I trusted more than people on these like real networks. He's on a fucking comedy channel,
but he's real.
And I trust him more, right?
It's so real.
So I say nothing against those things, but I do think it puts things in proper perspective when people are looking at their news diet. Yeah. Right. And I would encourage people, and this is why something like The Arena I think is really important, is that the more people you have doing real ass journalism, real ass reporting, or having opportunities, and if I'm talking to a politician, I can say, hey, I have questions, you can answer it. So you can't say when I do a fucking podcast episode that I took something out of context, motherfucker, you're talking to me.
Right.
Or you're talking to me in a sense where I'm letting you get your thoughts out. So you're not being forced to a sound bite. You're not being forced to something that's really, really short. So those are the things that I think are really, really important. And I think that South Carolina is in need of it, and I think they're ready for it.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen that dude? He has a YouTube channel and everything. His name's Destiny.
No,
he has debated Jordan Peterson.
Oh.
A couple of OAN, whatever they're called. And he goes toe to toe, and they'll say something, and he's like, "You're absolutely wrong." They're like, "Well, where did Trump go wrong?" And he'll just be like, even before the election, he was saying the election was rigged.
Right.
Before he got elected the first time. I was like, it's not a new thing for him, but now that he's on your side, it's a thing. You all should check him out. Just type in Destiny Debates.
Okay.
And find this dude.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing, you know, that was kind of a heady strategy for somebody like Donald Trump, because I was having a conversation. All right. So first and foremost, when Biden was here, when he was announcing that South Carolina was going to be the primary state for the Dems, there was a news station based out of Germany that reached out to me, and they were like, hey, South Carolina is the spot. We wanted to find people on the ground that were involved politically and socially active. So they found my name and they reached out to me. They came to my home, they interviewed me, they talked to me. And one of the things when I'm talking to this woman who's German, and we had these really, really interesting conversations about Trump. And I'm like, you know, a lot of the rhetoric that Trump was doing was really uncomfortable. She's like, look, I'm German. I know what that type of rhetoric means and feels, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool. She had this really, really strong acknowledgement of it, right?
Yeah.
She's like, listen, I feel you. I see what this stuff looks like. But one of the things that I said to her was that when we're asking about the involvement from Russia, I'm like, I don't think Vladimir Putin was more hell-bent on Donald being elected as much as he wants the American public to not have faith in the electoral system.
I think
right?
I think one of Putin's main goals was to create a division in the United States, because
that's it. The former KGB have said that.
Yeah. That was
about the whole thing.
I think that ultimately that was ultimately, it wasn't necessarily just to get Donald Trump elected, because if Donald Trump hadn't been elected in 2016, I absolutely believe that things would have been worse. I think we would be in a worse spot now than we were then anyway. But because if Donald Trump hadn't gotten elected, I guarantee you that the Chinese and the Russians would have infiltrated our social media more than they already had. It was all just to create a division, because a divided United States is much weaker. We don't have the global impact that the United States has. If we're constantly fighting amongst ourselves, you know, we wind up losing a foothold.
So you think if Hillary got elected, you think it would have pushed these people to do more?
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was asking.
I think that there is a universe where Hillary Clinton gets elected and we're at war with ourselves. I mean, I'm not saying we're not going that direction now.
It's better now, goddamn! Like, well, it's like,
look,
I think Hillary would have gotten it. You would have just had more disgruntled people that eventually Trump would run and probably not have all the shit come to light. That is there now.
There is a factor in how people vote in the United States, and Hillary Clinton got more votes than Trump in 2016. She lost the electoral college, but she had more votes. I think it was like 3 million, 4 million, something like that. But Hillary Clinton, the same as Nikki Haley, Republicans will not vote for a woman for president. Maybe the women might, but they will not elect a woman president. And it wasn't just Hillary Clinton was a Democrat. Hillary Clinton was, married to Bill Clinton, and that she let him slide on the things that he did. But ultimately, their biggest issue wasn't her politics. It was her as a woman. And that is the same reason that Nikki Haley was not going to succeed, especially against Donald Trump. But that was ultimately what held her back, was her pronoun. I mean, it was
how many people do you think want Noam to come in and like, murdering dogs is cool by me? None. Goats, I've done that. Let's fucking do this.
I fully believe that Kristi Noem out of South Dakota is completely off the list of vice presidents. She
couldn't get a job at a CVS.
We can't even confirm that she wrote the book, because we already know the book was ghost written. I think the first time that she read the book was when she was doing the narration for the audiobook.
She's like, oh no. Well, speaking of VP candidates, you think Tim Scott is a legitimate candidate?
No. So I told Barrett yes, because he will literally do whoever the loudest voice in charge is at that time. So he'll do whatever Trump says. If it was, I don't know. It's kind of like a give and take. I do think that he will be a do boy for Donald Trump and do whatever he tells him to do.
But Tim, I don't want him to waste his engagement for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, we'll go on the beach. I mean, but I think that it's a weird thing when it's a relationship with politics, and I think that this is why. I'm not a fan of platitudes. I used to hate back in the day when people are like, oh, vote or die, or it's the most important election ever, or this and this and that. Right. And I think the narrative was always wrong. I think the narrative was always vote. And the narrative was never like, motherfucker, you run.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that needs to be the adjusted messaging for the Democrat Party. Right? Is that it's not about voting for people on the ballot. It's about, motherfucker, you get on the ballot. I think that is where you're going to get the shift in what needs to happen. And the more you start to see young people getting involved and galvanized, again, MLK got approached. He was like, nah, I don't want to do this. Nobody wants to get into civic duty. Hell, I was watching the JFK documentary. He had two other brothers that were supposed to be running for president. His oldest brother was supposed to be groomed to be president. And when he died, his dad was like, well, God damn it. Well, I guess it's you, buddy.
Get up there. It's up to you now.
He was a sickly guy. He was sick all the time. He was treated as if he was this frail kid. So for him to be the person to come out of that, he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So
and ultimately,
I think there's something important about
the people that don't want to do it, the people that do it because they have to, and I know this sounds like I'm basically just giving Biden everything, but I don't think Biden had any interest in running and being president. I think
if there's one argument that I have with the Democrat Party is that what should have been done is, I think Biden felt a responsibility, especially during COVID. You needed the older stepdad to come in, because the dad we had in office in Trump was the alcoholic dad, snorting coke, doing all this crazy shit. So the stepdad needed to come in and to kind of stabilize some things.
Yeah.
What I feel that the Democrat Party, and maybe the Republicans do as well, is that there's not a better focus on succession. There needs to be a way that, like, yo, we got Obama. He's galvanized all these people. All right, who's the next young person we're going to bring in here? Doesn't even have to be black. Doesn't even have to be a man.
Yeah.
Who's the next young person that we can get to galvanize the people like this? The mistake with the Democrat Party was that there was this acknowledgement in 2008 when Obama and Hillary were going at it. Barry was like, look, Hillary, if you endorse me, when it's your time, I got you. Right. And I don't think politics should work that way. The people need to pick who the candidate is going to be. So the Democrats put all this focus on Hillary and not kind of an organic way of galvanizing that. But I think that the succession plan for both parties has been a fucking mess. Like, if you're a Republican, if I'm a Republican, I'm going to be like, yo, where's our Republican Obama? Where's our galvanizing, handsome young man or woman that's going to come in this motherfucker and change people to speak differently and get people excited? But you got Trump again?
It's Swami, right? Isn't it? That would be theirs, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't get me started.
Ramaswamy.
But I think the Democrats, what should have been done is like we should have been looking at Biden as somebody to say, hey, guy, thank you for coming in here to help stabilize this. Let us groom the next person to kind of come in here and get ready. And I think that both parties feel like it's really hilarious because when the elections come in, they're like, oh, shit, there's an election. You know what I mean? Like, y'all motherfuckers have 4 years to get ready for it. You know what I'm saying?
I always look at... No, go ahead.
No, go. I'm done.
I always have to go remind myself about how a president should speak. So I go watch Obama speeches and stuff, and I'm like, God damn, remember when we liked our president? You never really had it so much before, really, even. I mean, like, I grew up through the Bush and the Clintons and stuff, and I was born during Reagan, so I've only had Bushes and Clintons for a minute, and then Obama. But I was like, God damn, that was really nice, because then now you have a guy doing like this and can't drink his water bottle, and then you have a geriatric guy who's forgetting things, and you just go like, there has to be somebody better, but your Obamas don't come around every day. And then on the other side, like you were talking about, who's your clean, well-spoken dude on the Republican side? It's usually a frat dude. He's just saying some really racist shit.
Yeah, I think
you're Charlie Kirks of the world and stuff. Like,
I think the Republicans were really hoping that Josh Hawley wasn't going to turn out to be nuts.
Yeah,
I think because his downfall was on January 6th, 2021. Because he raised his hand in solidarity to all of the Proud Boys that were already beginning to line up. And then we got the security footage of him sprinting through the halls of Congress to save himself. Like, these are your people. And you're running away from them? No, join the crowd, man.
Yeah. And again, back to the idea of how there needs to be more people in the Democrat and even the Republican Party to galvanize new people that's coming in there. Think about it like this. If we look at George W., the years they were in office, Bill Clinton, and let's say Hillary was elected and got 2 terms, that's 36 years of 2 families that are in the White House.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so a generation is 20 years. So you're going to have almost 2 generations of just 2 families representing this country.
3 with George Sr. being up there the whole time.
Yeah, so I'm saying, like,
that's crazy
absolutely.
to think about.
You know what? I didn't even add him being the VP under Reagan, right?
Yep,
so you think about it from that perspective. That when you say it like that, it's like, wow, we don't have any other.
There's no goddamn choices here. We're no choices.
Yeah. And so again, I think that narrative needs to change. I think that the Democrats need to be less about go and vote and more about go and run.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything that's like a grandiose position, but like, yo, find something in your community to be a part of, get your fucking ass out there and run. Because more than the Republicans not wanting you to go vote, they don't want your ass to run. And that's when you have real power.
You have to find that enigmatic person that really people gravitate to, and then you'd be like, so what do you think? I'm sure everybody thought Harrison Buckner was perfectly fine until he was like, let me speak at the graduation real quick, and they're like, oh fuck, no.
Another reason not to give kickers that much shine during the game, leave it to the quarterbacks and run. But here's my thing. I don't even think one of the people I talked to today, he was telling me that the house that he's voting for, the district he's voting for, was a district that's been unopposed for 12 years, right? So
I see that all the time.
So what ends up happening is when people that have a representative that's been there for that long unopposed, you're going to hear stories about, oh, this person doesn't return my calls. This person don't reach back out to me. There's no reason to,
right? Because
they're unopposed. So to me, I think real political power isn't always just about winning an election, right? Sometimes it's about applying pressure. And a lot of times applying pressure is throwing your hat in the ring and holding people accountable. So I don't really care about whether or not you're a Republican or a Democrat in local politics as much as I care about holding you accountable for the things that's important. Whether you have a D or a R by your name, I don't give a shit. Because a lot of times they're going to end up at the same bar drinking the same bourbon anyway. Yep. How are you impacting and helping the people in my community? That's what's important.
Yeah.
And if good ideas are good ideas and that person has the good ideas, that's the person.
Yeah. I feel like Preach is trying to tell someone here something.
Fine, Preach, I'll run. I'll announce it now. I'm running for president 2030.
On the dark side. Yeah.
Well,
that line can be don't keep up with the Joneses.
Oh, son of a.
To be fair, my mom always goes like, Zach, you should run for office. I was like, dude, I can't handle a normal job and a 3-year-old at the moment and a wife. I'm just like, I can't.
Yeah, my
truck needs brakes. I can't do this.
Well, so you gotta leave it to the single guys with no wife, no kids, no dog, bad credit. All right, let me run. Let's go.
Bad credit. What the?
Oh my God! Come on. Good credit. Listen, funny story. There was a brief moment when I was thinking of becoming a cop. I'm telling you a funny story.
Same.
And so this is a funny story. So
we could have been squad car mates.
Look here. Well, here's why I couldn't be. So when I was running for or walking for city council, because I wasn't running, we didn't raise no motherfucking money. But one of the things that we decided to do was like, figure out different ways to get engaged in the community and do certain things, some things that's free. So for your viewers and listeners, there's something called the Citizens Police Academy. And the Citizen Police Academy is basically, hey, there's a 10-week situation where you go to the police department and you go there every Tuesday for 10 weeks. They'll feed you and they'll show you all the operationals of how the police department works. So it'll be like 1 week, you'll be like, here's how SWAT works. Here's how internal affairs work. Here's how we're supposed to arrest people. Here's how we're supposed to blah, 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 blah.
Uber right along.
And so one of these days they had an officer, man and woman come in and they were kind of recruiting. They were like, look, if you're taking the time out to come here for 10 weeks, then maybe you might be interested in a job. And so a part of me was like, well, damn, I'm a struggling artist. My money's fucked up. Maybe I should become a cop. And I was like, if I become a cop, my motherfucking rap career is over. But the officer was just like, here's the process. If y'all interested, come by.
Yeah.
We're going to look at you like this, turn in the application, turn in your resume, and we're going to do a credit check. And I raised my hand. I said, so what's the thinking that if somebody has bad credit, they're going to be more sensitive to people trying to bribe them or situations like that? And he was like, yes, sir. And I was like, well, not going to be a cop. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it's funny. Most jobs do a credit check though. Like they'll just do it, and you can have like I've had okay credit most of my life, just never had credit. And they're just like, oh well, this. So you probably would have still gotten it. Think of that.
Hey, I need money to get out of this credit card debt. Well, your credit is bad. I need motherfucking money to get out of it. It's like,
you know, and two things would have happened. You would either stayed in the rap game and revolutionized being a cop as a rapper still, or two, you would have gone the route of like Christian rapper where no one listens to it unless people who really like rap, and that's all they can listen to.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, on that bombshell, I think we're going to have to wrap it up. So,
well, I do want to talk real quick about one thing that has nothing to do with politics or nothing.
Okay, real quick.
Dune 2 just came out on HBO Max, and that's the first time I've gotten to see it. Have y'all watched it?
No.
I've seen it twice. Yeah.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
I enjoy it.
I try. Honestly, I think I
That's
can't.
like 6 hours of screen time for you, Preach. So I know you had to like it.
I can't connect with the Dune series, and I know that there's a lot of people that would listen to this and be like, "Oh no, science fiction and whatnot should be right up your alley." I read the book. And
it's political too.
I didn't connect with it. It didn't work for me. But that's the same as what's the Westworld that HBO did for several years.
I didn't care for Westworld, but it's one movie.
I just didn't.
I mean,
I'll tell you one thing, Barrett, that I do agree with you in a certain degree. I've always had this theory that I call it the close-up theory, that if I'm watching a movie and someone's supposed to be a leading man and I'm supposed to believe you, I need there to be a close up on your face, and you could hold my attention and make me believe what you're saying, what you're doing, right? So that was a long time for example, somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio. I was annoyed with him because I was like, you fucking pretty boy, you skinny bastard, you're getting all these women in these movies, and then I think The Departed is when I looked at him, I was like, all right, he's that guy to me, right? Like I could believe him. Brad Pitt when he did Seven, okay, I can believe him. With Timothée Chalamet, he's supposed to be this person that's like, yo, he's this person we got to follow. And he's like this savior and this and this and that. And he looks like a skinny fucking 13-year-old. Yeah. I'm like, where the fuck are we following you to? I need to follow you to a Golden Corral so you can eat some carbs because I can't trust anybody that wears an extra small outfit in the fucking desert. So
look at this girl in the movie though. Zendaya looks like a fucking twig just as much as he does.
Who are these people in the desert following these fucking kids?
Yeah. Then you have Javier Bardem, and he's fucking just like, Razagul. Yeah. Leland's on the go.
Yeah. I'm not.
I mean, but I enjoyed it because the director, I think he's great. Now, that director, Denis Villeneuve, I think I said his name right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did. I think you did.
Sicario is my movie. If you want to watch something that's great, the first Sicario, it's fucking great.
Yeah,
that's such a tough movie too, dude. That movie's so tough.
Ooh. Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up, Shane Gillis Netflix released Shane Gillis's Tires.
Okay.
You can watch. There's only 6 episodes. It's The Office in. So it's a raunchy version of The Office in an automotive repair shop. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Neither one of y'all seen it yet?
No.
I've seen the trailer. Shane Gillis is really hilarious to me. He tells that line of like being able to like make fun of Dems, but are you like, you quite a Republican? He makes jokes about that. So I like him. I think he's hilarious. I think you guys are bearing the lead. I think there needs to be a pod that you guys are doing where y'all just watch movies and talk about movies as well.
We've said it.
Let's do it.
Preach, are you in?
Let's do it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so the first movie we're watching, and I've told Barrett the entire time because I want some bad movies first. Bad, good movies. Black Dog with Patrick Swayze and Meatloaf and shit.
See, that's a bad, good. I think that's
a bad, good movie.
It's a good, bad movie. I think it's a good, bad movie.
If Randy Travis kills you and like shoots at you at the end as the bad guy, it's a bad, good movie.
Meatloaf.
When is this episode coming out? Do you know?
Monday.
All right, well, cool. I can say this. So I have a partnership with the Nickelodeon. I'm doing something called Mo Better Soul Cinema, where I'm showing films there where there's kind of like this connective tissue of Black music and films. So the first one we did during Black History Month, I did a Tribe Called Quest documentary, and I played Tribe Called Quest music before the film. The second one we did Mo Better Blues, a Spike Lee movie, and I played jazz for it. The third one we did House Party with Kid and Play, and I played like 90s R&B. So the one we're doing this Wednesday at the Nickelodeon, we're showing Black Dynamite, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
That's going to be Wednesday. And before the film, I'm going to be playing like 70s soul and funk and stuff like that. But it's a great thing. I have a personal affinity for blaxploitation films because a lot of the blaxploitation movies were terrible.
Yeah.
But that's why they were endearing, because you didn't have Black directors or Black gaffers or Black grips that were allowed to be in the union. So you saw these people trying to figure this shit out. So even with the movies being terrible, I love them. The soundtracks are always great. And this movie pays homage to it. So if you want to see a really, really hilarious movie come out this Wednesday, I'll put you on the list.
All right.
Bing bong.
Ooh,
very cool.
If y'all don't do Shaft, I'll be disappointed.
We're working on that. Yeah.
All right. Preach, Jacobs. See?
Oh, there it was.
No, I did.
There it was.
I did it on purpose.
One more again.
You weren't even joking.
It was right there.
I did it on purpose. All right. Everybody, the podcast is Worthy Cause Podcast with Preach Jacobs. It's on. It's published by The Arena. You can check them out on YouTube. I'm going to have all the links in the show notes. So definitely go out there and check it out. TheArenaSC.com. Emily, good friend of the show, Emily Mayer, who ran for Bluffton Town Council. She's got an article out there that was one of the first articles that was published. And I'm just gonna say this: I was excited to meet. I finally got to meet Emily last weekend, And I just preached to her. So
absolutely.
very cool.
She seemed, as soon as you met her, I was like, who is this? And then I had to look it up, and she was one of the people running. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I posted a bunch of pictures from the dinner, and she was like, well, where's our picture? And I was like, I don't know if she's joking or not. I'm scared. I love you.
No, she's
Great. I hit her
Cory
up.
Booker has it. He was in the background and didn't like his framing, so he deleted it.
Any notable figures coming up on some episodes of Worthy Cause with Priest Jacobs?
Well, let's just say I'm not going to say any names right now.
Okay.
But if they're involved in South Carolina politics or South Carolina creative and arts culture, we're in a good position where I don't have to chase people around anymore. They're hitting us up, and they're really excited about it. So I will just say, stay tuned.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, we are in a race to get this guy.
Oh, Lord. I'm gonna let it's Shane Beamer from Carolina. I'm gonna let Zach do that one as a
Shane. You don't want to be on here. Do you want to?
I'm gonna let Zach do that one as a shorts episode. All right, that's gonna do it for episode number 206. Thank you very much, Preach Jacobs. Of course, you can follow him on Instagram. Go to thearenasc.com to find all the recent Worthy Cause podcasts. Just go check it out. Show notes. Check our show notes. We've got them all listed there. So also links to past episodes, podcast platform, merchandise, and social media are available on our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger and support the show monthly? Members get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content, or you can make a one-time donation through the same link. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call 803-672-0533, or you can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com or join our Discord server. So do all those stuff. Do all of this stuff.
I'm always on Discord. Come on.
Do all this stuff.
Jump in.
Thank you again, Preach. Really appreciate you coming on. And definitely we're here for all the success that the arena has, that your podcast has. I think it's awesome. I'm glad that this is the direction you went. Really and truly.
Well, I'm excited too. And congratulations ahead of time for your second Best of Columbia podcast winner.
Wow.
It's just coming and speaking into existence. Because if Preach Jones said it, you know it's true.
Morgan, can you edit that?
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You all stay safe and...
You know what? Keep your hands to yourself.
The All About Nothing podcast is produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. I am Barrett Gruber. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Barrett Gruber or visit my linktree /Barrett Gruber. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available, including memberships that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. Visit theallaboutnothing.com. To find links to our social media, merchandise, and past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be heard on the show, you can call and leave us a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our partner podcast. Zach and I host What the Pod Was That with Carrie Simmons. Visit whatthepodwasthat.com for links and details. Me takes a deep dive down the rabbit hole in episodes of Welcome to Wonderland. Available on all the podcast platforms. Visit WTWLpod.com for details. As well, you can listen to the political and social conversation between Dr. Jamela Brooks and Bill Kimler on Black, White, and Blue in the South, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please like and hit the notification bell. Thank you for listening. The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media and copyright 2024, all rights reserved. This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is brought to you by Blank Canvas Brand. If you own a business, restaurant, or sports team and you're ready to shake things up with that new, unique image, you need to use Blank Canvas Brand. Blank Canvas specializes in brand identity, including logos and graphics for business cards, flyers, banners, and signs. Blank Canvas offers printing services to help with your clothing needs. Look, when it comes to talent and service, there is no one better. For more information, you can search Facebook for Blank Canvas, or you can email blankcanvas at theallaboutnothing.com. That's BLNKCANVS at theallaboutnothing.com. You can find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com.